Brother, since you last met with our committee, you have been initiated an Entered Apprentice. Perhaps you were somewhat puzzled by the strange language of the first degree and a little mystified by the ceremony, quite unlike anything you have ever seen before. Tonight is our second meeting with you. We would like to give you an interpretation of the first degree, explain some of the symbols and teachings, and prepare you for your next step. Each of the symbols, emblems, and allegorical ceremonies of the first degree have a meaning. All these comprise the teachings of the first degree. Our time is too brief to give you complete explanations, but we believe it will be profitable to you to have a few explanations, especially as they will show that every detail of the ritual is filled with a definite significance which each Mason can learn. The candidate's clothing is removed. It stands for the removal of the things that hold him to the outer world. The wearing of lodge garments emphasizes the concern of Freemasonry with a man's internal worth rather than with his external adornments of position, wealth, or environment. Divesting of all minerals and metals is to rid himself of his base passions. As the aim of Masonry is to transform the individual from a lower state to a higher state of being, then the first thing an individual must do is to divest or rid himself of his metallic or base passions, the devils that bring him down to the level of animal nature, that bind him hand and foot to his low state, a slave to his base feeling. The hoodwink represents darkness in which an uninitiated man stands as regards to Masonic life. It is removed at the moment of enlightenment, indicating that we do not make great things of existence, such as goodness, truth and beauty, but find them. They are always there. It is our blindness that conceals them from us. The cable tow is a symbol of all those restraints by which a man is controlled by others or by forces outside himself. If a man does not keep the law of his own free will, he must be compelled to keep it. The removal of the cable tow signifies that when a man becomes master of himself, he will keep the law instinctively by his own character. The ceremony of entrance signifies birth or initiation and symbolizes the fact that a candidate is entering the world of Masonry, there to live a new kind of life. The reception typifies the one real penalty for violations of the obligations, the destructive consequence to a man's nature for being faithless to his vows, untrue to his word, disloyal to his obedience. The rite of perambulation is the ceremony of walking around the lodge room, an allegorical act rich with many meanings. One of these is that the Masonic life is a progressive journey from station to station of attainment, and that a Mason will always search for more light. The purpose of the journey is to enable all present to view the candidate and ascertain that he is duly and truly prepared. An equally significant ceremony is that of approaching the East. The East is the source of light, that station in the heavens in which the sun appears to dispel the darkness. Masons are sons of light, therefore they face the East. The altar is a symbol of faith. On it rest the three great lights, and to it comes the candidate in search of light, and to offer himself symbolically to the service of his fellow man and the grand architect of the universe. The obligations have literal meanings and as such are the foundation of our disciplinary law. Above this, they signify the nature and place of obligation in human life. An obligation is a tie, a contract, a pledge, a promise, a vow, a duty that is voluntarily assumed, obligations to God, to our families, to employers or employees, to friends and neighbours. A Mason can be depended upon to fulfill his obligations to the best of his ability. The great lights in Masonry are the Holy Bible, square and compasses. As a great light, the Holy Bible represents the will of God as man understands it. The square is an emblem of virtue, and the compasses signify the moral and spiritual life. If a man acts in obedience to the will of God, according to the dictates of his conscience, he will be living in the illumination of the great lights and cannot go astray. The lesser lights represent the three lights of the lodge, the master and wardens. It is in the form of a right-angled triangle, which is symbolic of the complete man as referred to in the Bible, composed of body, soul, and spirit. Literally speaking, the right-angled triangle is the symbol of mathematics, discovered by Pythagoras. Our ancient brethren considered it as a symbol of humanity. The word and grip are our means of recognition by which among strangers we're able to prove others or ourselves regular Masons in order to enter into fraternal intercourse. The rite of salutation, in which the candidate salutes each station in turn, is his recognition of the authority of the principal officers of the lodge. It is also a symbol of Masons' respect for and obedience to all just and duly constituted authorities. The worshipful master is a symbol as well as the executive officer of the lodge. As the sun rules the day, he rules and governs his lodge. He is addressed as worshipful, which means that he is worthy of reverence, respect, and obedience. The apron is at once the emblem of purity and the badge of a Mason. By purity is meant blamelessness, a loyal obedience to the laws of the craft and sincere goodwill to the brethren. As the badge of a Mason, it signifies that Masons are workers and builders, not drones and destructionists. The right of destitution. In ancient times, candidates were compelled to leave all metals behind lest they bring into the assembly disturbing influences. This old practice about keeping out disturbing influences still remains. The candidate is not to bring into the lodge room his passions or prejudices, lest harmony, which is one of the chief concerns of Masonry to sustain, be destroyed. The northeast corner, halfway between the north place of darkness and east source of light, is traditionally the place where the cornerstone of a building is laid. The apprentice stands there because he is a cornerstone of the craft. What apprentices are today, Masonry will become in the future. The working tools represent those moral and spiritual virtues, habits and forces by which a man reshapes the crude and stubborn materials of his nature and adjusts himself to the requirements of human society. To become a Mason, a man who has lived planlessly, carelessly, without aim or ideals, must learn to systematize his life as signified by the 24-inch gauge. If he has traits of temper, habits of speech or defects of character that disturb or injure others and interfere with his proper place in the brotherhood, as corners of rough stones interfere with putting them into their allotted places in the building, he must rid himself of these with the common gavel. The Entered Apprentice is himself a symbol, one of the noblest in the emblematic system of the craft. He represents youth typified by the rising sun, trained youth, youth willing to submit itself to discipline and to seek knowledge in order to learn the great art of life, the real royal art, represented and interpreted by all the mysteries of Masonry. It is by such actions and arts as all these that our magnificent first degree gave its teachings to you as a man and an entered apprentice Mason. We sincerely hope that these explanations as to the meanings of these symbols and emblems will lead you to seek further light, not only that you may become a well-trained Mason, but also for their value to your life outside the lodge room.
Krishna
Questions and answers. Question: why must an applicant for masonry first be prepared in his heart? Answer: the heart is the seat of affections, passions and desires. All the actions of a man's life issue and proceed from the heart. As a man's heart is, so will his life be. If his heart is clean and pure, his life cannot be wicked and vicious. Fundamentally, Masonry's first concern is with the strengthening of character in the individual, the building of a spiritual temple, and unless the heart is receptive, the mind will not properly respond to this basic objective. Question: is there a distinction between Masonic oath and Masonic obligation? Answer: the oath is the "so help me God" at the end of any solemn promise made with the hand upon the book of the law. The obligation is the substance of the preceding promises. Oath is thus symbolic of a man's fear of God. Obligation signifies the promise and agreements made preceding the oath. Question: why does the ritual use so many repetitions, as in duly and truly, worthy and well qualified, etc.? Answer: in Middle English writings, especially in the 13th and 14th centuries, when Freemasonry was in process of formation, England had two languages. One was Norman French and the other Anglo-Saxon. To make sure of understanding, word pairs were much in use, a word of similar meaning taken from each language. The apparent redundancy of expression in a number of places in the ritual may be traced to the Middle Ages. The perpetuation of such usage now, when clarity of thought and understanding might be served as well with one word, is one of many proofs that Freemasonry delights to cling to the ancient and venerated because it is venerated and ancient. Question: what are the ancient charges? Answer: we find the ancient charges in the old Anderson's Constitution, first printed in 1723. The charges are 6 in number and are headed as follows: concerning God and religion, of civil magistrate, supreme and subordinate, of lodges, of masters, wardens, fellows and apprentices, of the management of the craft in working, and of behaviour. The last, behaviour, is further subdivided into behaviour in the lodge while constituted, behaviour after the lodge is over and the brethren not gone, behaviour when brethren meet without strangers but not in lodge formed, behaviour in presence of strangers, not masons, behaviour at home and in your neighbourhood, behaviour toward a strange brother. Question: what is a Masonic charge? Answer: at an appropriate place in the ceremonies of each degree, the candidate receives a concise summary of his new duties and responsibilities, and he is charged or exhorted to perform them in a creditable manner. Question: why do brethren entering or leaving a lodge salute the master or senior warden? Answer: this is an assurance that the brethren know on what degree the lodge is open. It is a ceremony to indicate that our obligations are remembered. It is also a ritual of regard or rededication to the principles of our order. Brethren desiring to leave salute the master to secure permission to retire. No one can enter or leave the lodge while it is at labour without permission of the master. If the master does not wish to excuse the brother, he tells him so, instead of responding to the salute. Question: why do brethren not pass between the altar and the east when lodge is at labour? Answer: brethren do not pass between the altar and the east in a lodge at labour, except in a degree, because the master is supposed to have the great lights in view. In theory, he draws inspiration from the altar to preside over the lodge, and must not therefore be prevented from seeing it at any time. Question: what are the particular responsibilities of an entered apprentice? Answer: keeping inviolate, unimpaired, the secrets entrusted to his care, compliance with every part of his obligation, The observation of proper conduct and decorum, both within and without the lodge, and a display of diligence in seeking Masonic knowledge constitute the chief responsibilities of an entered apprentice. Question: what are my Masonic rights as an entered apprentice? Answer: an entered apprentice has limited privileges. He is not required to pay dues, cannot vote or hold office, can attend only the entered apprentice degree, and cannot receive Masonic burial or attend a Masonic funeral in the garb of a Mason. He has no right to organize Masonic charity from the lodge, although of course he may receive individual Masonic charity. He has the right of instruction by competent brothers and the right to ask for opportunity of demonstrating his proficiency and of requesting his fellow craft degree. He may attend or visit an entered apprentice lodge provided he is vouched for or passes a visitor's examination. Question: why must I memorize the candidate's lecture? Answer: first, in order that you may become completely familiar with Freemasonry's basic teachings. Second, so you can prove your proficiency as a Mason and thus pass the required examination in open lodge before you can be passed or raised. Question: how did the Masonic ritual originate? Answer: originally it was not composed as a ritual or series of ceremonies, but was called the work. It was the perpetuation of the usages and practices of the day-by-day work and customs of the operative Masons. When the craft began to admit non-operative or speculative members during the 17th century, the work gradually became more ritualistic and symbolic. In 1717, organized Freemasonry was born when the first Grand Lodge was formed in London. At that time, there seems to have been but a single degree and master's part. Within a few years, there emerged 3 degrees. Eventually, the United Grand Lodge of England made the following important declaration concerning symbolic or Blue Lodge Masonry. It is declared and pronounced that ancient craft masonry consists of 3 degrees and no more. They are those of entered apprentice, the fellow craft, and the master mason, including the Holy Royal Arch. The Royal Arch has since been eliminated and is now worked only in chapters of Royal Arch Masonry.